Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is King of Quant. Today we're going to be looking at how to set up a personal finance dashboard in Tableau. Let's look at how the dashboard works real quick. As you can see, there's a nice little overlay on the dashboard that shows some details about how you can watch your net worth increase, how you can watch your retirement contributions over the years, and different filtering options, and of course, like and follow the video. So conveniently, this can disappear with the click of a button, and you can just see the meat of the data. This is nice because whenever you have some complicated features or maybe some actions that aren't quite apparent right off the bat, you can create a nice little overlay that can show at the click of a button. For instance, I created this one mainly for the purpose of displaying that by clicking on a piece of this pie right here, you can see how this chart, investment breakdown, will filter. So let's see that in action. I'm going to click on this chart right here. And as you can see, it updates this over here. And it's going to work for every piece of the pie. So that's convenient. It is processing. Computer's running a little slow. And there we go. So as you can see, this does work very nicely once it is already processed. So let's go ahead and check out how we can create this using the different sheets, and let's jump right on in. All right, guys, the first sheet we're going to jump into is net worth. It's a line chart showing assets in green, liabilities in red, and the net worth in orange. So this is what it's going to look like when it's all done. I'm going to switch over to our workbook that has not been edited yet. Let's take a look at the data for monthly balances, which is the sheet we're going to be using. And I am going to go ahead and link all these files that we're going to use throughout the series down below in the description. So just grab those if you need them. So monthly balances, as you can see, is monthly data based on savings, retirement accounts, a house, a car, and those are all the assets. And then liabilities, we have student loans, a car loan, and a mortgage. So you'll be able to see how these account balances update over the month. So jumping into the first sheet, we're going to take our date. Well, first off, we are going to notice here how this is in a cross-tab format, which is not very Tableau friendly. So we're going to first grab all of the columns that we want to edit. It looks like Tableau is being nice and slow. We're going to grab all those and pivot them. And what that does is it creates two new columns: pivot field names, which is just the account name, and then pivot field value, which is the account value. So let's go ahead and rename those account name and then account value. And you'll find you have to do this pretty often when you're using Tableau for data sources that are in that cross-tab format, because that is what humans tend to be able to read better. So now that we have that, we're going to put our date up here on the columns and switch that to a continuous format at the month granularity. Next, we're going to take our account. I misnamed that. Account field is not account field. It is account value. Okay, now that that's correct, we'll take our account value and put that on the rows. Now what you can see is if you compare this to our finished one, this is our net worth. And that is simply because all the different account values are positive and negative respective to their, whether it's an asset or a liability. But we want to see how much of this is assets, how much of this is liabilities. So to do that, we need to break these account values up into two different groups. So we're just going to create not a parameter. We're going to create a calculated field real quick, and it's going to be asset or liability. And to do that, we're just going to do if account name, or if account value is greater than 0, what do you think it is? It is a asset. And then if it's not an asset, it is a liability. of course. And then we'll just throw an end on there and we're good to go. So now we've got the exact same, we've just got the account names broken up into two different categories. And there's a couple different ways to do that, but that is what I chose to do. Next up, we're going to make a dual axis chart. And to do that, we're just going to take account value and drag it up there again. So now we've got the exact same thing, just two of them. Now we'll go down to our first chart. We're going to leave that one be because that is this one. Our second chart, we are going to add color, and that is going to be asset or liability. Now, as you can see, here's our assets going up over time, and here's our liabilities going up over time. And a couple key things to notice. This obviously right here is when this hypothetical person has bought a house. The house value went up in the assets category, and the mortgage value went down in the liabilities category. Obviously, if I remember right, I created this where this person, I think, bought a car right here. So this is a small jump and a small decline. But it all sums out to this. So let's go ahead and make this a dual axis. And boy, does that look funny. And that is because it appears that the net worth is exceeding assets minus liabilities, which is just not correct. And if we notice here, our axes are not synchronized. So we're just going to right click on this one and hit synchronize axis. And now does that look much better? Don't really need these. So I'm going to hide the headers. Don't really need month of date. Not very informative. So I'm going to edit the axis, not hide the axis, because I do want to see the years down there. And then remove the title. Just leave it blank and close that out and hide the title. And that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and adjust our colors for the first chart, which is just this gray line. We want to make that orange. And then for our bottom chart here, we want to change the colors to have our assets be green and our liabilities be red. Subliminally, that just kind of makes sense to me. So green minus red equals orange for some reason. So looks good. I think the last thing here is just going to be adjusting the tooltip. To do that, we're going to remove month of date and then remove account value and remove asset liability. And if we preview that, looks like it's going to leave our month and then the year and then the account value and then what it is. And we don't really need to know whether it's an asset or liability. And looks pretty good on all of these. It is not in dollar format, so we'll go ahead and adjust that real quick. To do that, we just come over here and we click sum of account value because that is the field we're editing. This is the pane. This window is called the pane. So we're going to click over onto pane. And then we just want the default format to be in currency, custom. When we're dealing with larger numbers, the pennies and nickels and dimes are not that important. So now it looks good. We can see positives and then negatives down here. Looks good. So we're going to go ahead and move over to our next sheet. As long as this adds up with our other sheet. Looks pretty good. If anything, my first sheet is incorrect. So cool. We are already fixing mistakes. All right. So over to the next sheet. Our next sheet is going to be stocks 1 and looks pretty basic to make, but it is really cool. It's informative. And if you ever watch CNBC or anybody who covers the stock market, you're used to this format where it's in this kind of, I forget what they call it. It's a tree map, technically. So if you're used to this tree map and you like it, here's how to make it. First step is going to be to come over here and we'll call this one net worth because that's what we called it over there. And this will be called stock 1. Okay, so for stock 1, we're not using the same data, so we need to reconnect to the same data source, but a different sheet. And this is going to be stock holdings. So let's check this out real quick. Covering the data, this is straight from Excel. Anybody who is familiar with Excel data types knows that you can have a stock data type where you put the ticker in and you're allowed to draw all these different fields from the ticker. F1 right here is in Excel where I put the data type stock and then the ticker. And then I was able to draw the ticker symbol. The account value is just where this hypothetical person is investing their money. Excel gives me the expense ratio, what type it is. I input the quantity, the cost, and it's going to give me the value. And then I multiply that out to get equity. And it gives me the industry. So it's really convenient. You can gather a lot of data very quickly and automatically. So let's go ahead and try to visualize this. So the easiest way for anybody who does not know is going to be to grab the ticker, holding down control. We want the ticker and then the equity. And if we go over to show me, we can just click tree map. And that is the easiest way to do it. Breaking that down so that you actually understand the fundamentals behind it, what we do is we put, as you can see, I'm kind of doing the reverse of it here. We're going to put ticker into text, equity into size. Now we see that tree map, but it's not very color coded. Now we're going to hold down control, click equity, and drag that up to color. And that is what tree map it just made. However, I don't really like that because right now we're conveying two different pieces of information in one chart when we could be conveying three important pieces of information. So I'm going to drag off equity because I know when it's big, I have a lot of money in it. But when it's small, I don't have much money in it. So that's intuitive based on the size. On the color, I'd rather know something completely different. So I've chosen to use color to convey profit. In order to do that, we don't have profit as a measure right now. So we're going to create a calculated field and call it profit. And then what is profit? It is the current value minus the cost. So we have current equity. I think it's just called equity. And we're going to subtract that. We do not have total cost, but we have cost per share. And then we have quantity owned, which is how many shares we own. So we will take cost per share times the quantity owned, and that's essentially total cost minus our equity. That's going to give us profit. So there we have it. And now I'm going to take profit and put that into color. Now we're conveying three different values with one chart. We're conveying the ticker, total equity based on size, and then profit based on color. As far as color goes, let's go ahead and change the color scheme to be, I believe I did just the normal green. So let's compare that to our other one over here. Looks pretty good. As you can see, we're getting really close. So let's add in into our tooltip, or not our tooltip, into our label. We want equity. There's equity. We want, let's see, I think I have cost in there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and create a field called cost. And we already know how to calculate that because we just did that. Quantity owned times cost per share. Now we have our cost, and we'll put that in the label. And then profit in the label. Cool. Next up, let's change the label formatting so that we can see, I think I did equity, cost, and profit, just so that we know what all these different values are, because otherwise you're just kind of supposed to assume what these values are. We're going to make these size 15, might be too big. Yeah, let's do 12. Looks good. Switch that over to Tableau bold. And then after that, we need to change the formatting of the different measures. Looking pretty good. Um, I think technically in the other sheet, I use Tableau Light for these because I don't really want to accentuate the text. Rather, I want to accentuate the values. Cool. Um, and next up, cool. Next up, we will adjust. Don't want that. We will adjust, yeah, just the formatting, and it looks like the title, and we should be good to go. Let's underline the ticker. And then the formatting. So we'll right click anywhere here in the pane, hit format, and just like normal, we're going to click all three of our measures in the pane. We want currency custom, no decimal places. Cost, currency custom, no decimal places. And then the last one, equity, currency, no decimal places. Okay. Looks really close to what we have over there. Comparing the two. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Just want to adjust our tooltip probably. Let's see what we did with the tooltip over here. I don't think I did much. Yeah. Tooltip. We're just going to take out the text because we don't need that. We already can see it on the screen. We can recognize the pattern here. And what we want to do is just move equity up so it does follow the pattern of everything else. Looks good. Equity, we'll move cost up too. And now we are going to be following the pattern of everything else: equity, cost, profit. So now when we come down here to GE, we can compare it and not have all that text taking up a bunch of space. Looks really good. We'll just go ahead and adjust the title to say, I believe it said investment breakdown. And then we're going to adjust the, we're going to center it up, Tableau bold, 15. And then to adjust the color, I always pick screen color, and then I pick a primary color in the chart because it creates a sense of continuity in the dashboard. I'm just going to go with that color. Don't know if that's specifically the one I used over there, but probably really close. Yeah, it was. Okay. Looks good. So moving on. Stock 2. And we can come over here and see this is just a rather basic pie chart. For this one, we want to use the industry. We want to see how much equity we have in each industry. And then we're just going to put in the label the industry name and the equity. Really straightforward. So coming over here, once again, the Show Me tab is going to be great for something like this. Industry, equity, the Show Me tab. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we can just drag these over here and just get rid of this one. We're going to change this to fit the entire view because right now it's really small. Can't see it that well. Bump up the size just a little bit. Okay. Don't love the color scheme because that is not going to balance really well with our second sheet. So let's adjust the color scheme. And if I remember right, for this one, I used green gold. And then, so I picked that one. Instead of assigning all of these individually, you can just hit assign palette, apply, and it assigns the palette. Nice and organized. That's great. So over here, I have the exact same thing, just flipped. It works for me. If you did want to flip it, what you'll want to do is just sort it. Up here at the top, you can just sort back and forth. And the colors, with this one, I would rather have the colors transitioning from gold to green rather than choppy all around where we go from dark green to gold. So what we want to do now is just come back into colors and assign the palette again and apply. Not exactly the same thing, it's flipped. So what we'll do is sort it the other way first, and this is just kind of gaming the system. Assign the palette, hit apply, good, and then flip it back. And now we are looking pretty good. Um, Essentially the same thing. So next up, we will add the industry into the label and add the equity into the label. Looks really good. For the tooltip, just have equity in there. Okay, and I like that, but I think I'm going to go ahead and leave industry in there as well this time, because for some of those smaller ones, it's not showing the industry for like this one. So looks good. Let's once again format the measure of equity in the pane to currency and get rid of the decimals. Looks good. Looks pretty much exactly the same as this one. Yep. Okay. Over here, we'll just hide the title for now, or we can actually edit it to make it this title: Investment Equity by Industry. And we'll just type that. Investment Equity by Industry. Center it up. Tableau bold. 15. Same thing, same process. Pick a screen color. I'm just going to pick this biggest one. Okay. Apply. Good to go. Nice and quick. All right. Last sheet. If I remember right. Yep, just retirement contributions, and that's a really basic one. Retirement contributions. So this is using a different data source once again. So let's connect back to the same Excel file. And this time we're going to bring over retirement contributions. And this one already is in database format. 1 year at a time, we're just stating what account we're trying to max out. If you don't know, the yearly maximum for a Roth IRA is $6,000 per person. And then as we went over already, from 2010 to 2014, this person was in college, not making enough money to even think about applying to Roth IRAs that they probably should have, rather than saving money in a savings account. That is a conversation for another day. So as you can see, then once they graduate and get a full-time job, they start making random contributions every year and never quite maxing it out, but getting really close. So let's go in and create this sheet. What we want is the goal and the contribution, and then we want it by year. And once again, the Show Me tab is just perfect for this. We want an area chart, and it gets us really close to what we want. It doesn't really look like it, but it does. What we're going to do is switch both of these over. We're going to use a quick table calculation, and we want a running total. And what that does is it adds on the previous year to the current year. So look at the math behind it. Really, all it's doing is just creating a running total. We're going to do the same thing for both of them. And as you can see, this is the goal. This is the actual contribution. And then we're going to make this a dual axis, and looks really weird. And once again, we're running into the same issue we had back here with net worth. Tableau does not automatically synchronize the axis. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And that looks much better. And then hide the headers on both sides. Looking good. And edit the axis on the bottom. Remove year, because that is really apparent based on the different intervals. Next up, I think I used green and yellow for the different colors. Edit the colors. We want the goal to be green, and then the actual to be yellow. And looks good, but it's a little weird. We're just going to switch these two and bring the contributions out front. So it's the yellow is not blended with this other green color, and looks good. Maybe a different shade or something like that. We're off on color just a little bit, but um, for the most part, looks good. I guess we want to make sure that these match. We'll pick this green gold and assign and apply, and yeah, that is what I did before, and that matches exactly. Looks really good. Gathering lots of information. Unfortunately, as you can see, when you miss years of this contribution growth, what happens is, as you can see, you're going to miss out forever on all that contributed money, and then it's not linear. And that money will compound over time, and your loss on investments is definitely going to grow exponentially. So, once again, a conversation for another day, but it is interesting to analyze. So, I think our next step is going to be probably the tooltip. Just hit all for the tooltip. Can leave the year in there. We can leave the goal in there, and then leave the actual in there. We're just going to put in front of this one goal, just so we know what these numbers mean. Goal and then actual, and that could be much more informative than just actual, but we'll leave it at that. Looks good. Just need to format. Like always, we're going to pick both of these in the pane. Currency custom is going to be 0 decimals. And then once again, currency custom 0 decimals. Looks good. It's exactly what we want. We'll change the title, and then we can jump into the dashboard. With the title here, we just named it retirement contributions. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Don't even have to edit it. Center it up, turn it into Tableau bold, and change the color. And of course, we're going to pick the screen color and apply it. Looks good. The only sheet we did not put a title on was this one. And if we want, we can add the title in here instead of doing it on the dashboard to save some work. Oh, we didn't even put our title on there. Okay. So don't even need to worry about it. Finally, we're just going to add the dashboard in here. We'll name it personal finance, and we should be on our way. The dimensions I used was 1600 by 900. I do prefer to leave it a fixed dimensions, because depending on if you leave it and set it to automatic, depending on whose computer it is on, it could look really strange. So it's better just to leave it fixed and let people zoom in and out as they need. So first off, we need 2 vertical containers, and looks good. We're going to put our net worth in the top one, and we do not need this, and we do not need the title. Looks pretty good. We're going to add in our vertical container back in because it did get rid of it, and we want stock 1 here, and then we can get rid of our filters as they're popping up. We want stock 2 right there, just to the right of stock 1. Stock 1, we want to fit it to the entire view. That's good. That balances those out really well. And get rid of that little legend up there. We're looking really close all of a sudden. Happened really fast. One last thing we need to do is add retirement contributions in there at the top. Good. Don't need that legend. We need a title, and in our title, in our vertical container, we'll put text. We'll name it. What did I name it over here? Do you track your finances? And I think I cap locked all of those. Do you track your finances? Okay. Just drop a comment down below if you do track your finances, because you are already ahead of the curve. Most people do not track their finances. Size 15 might be too small. Let's do 24. Tableau bold. Okay, that looks about right. Go ahead and slide that container all the way up there. Next, we're just going to drop a blank box right here. We are going to, let's see. How do we want to do this? Over here, I think what I did was, let's see, we can check our hierarchy because that is very useful. We used a vertical container within a blank box inside of it. So we'll go ahead and get rid of our blank box. And of course, you always use a container when you're adding things to a dashboard. So we put our vertical container in there, and now we put our blank box in there. And then we'll go back to our hierarchy on this one. The hierarchy can be very useful. We'll choose our blank box, and we're going to change the background color to dark green. And that looks really ugly right now, but we're just going to fix the height to, going to edit the height to 3 pixels. See how that looks. Oh, can't do that. We need to edit our margins down to 0 first. Okay, now that our margins are 0, we can edit the height down to 3 pixels, and it looks pretty good. It is a little thin, but I think it'll be okay. Slide our container up. Looks good. We have a nice little line below our title. All 4 of our sheets. We are missing one. We are missing a couple key features, actually. When I click this slice of the pie, nothing happens over here, which we want to happen. So let's go ahead and implement that. We are also missing our King of Quant picture down here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we're missing our button. So let's jump into those. Otherwise, I think our tooltips look awesome. The entire dashboard is exactly how we want it to be. So let's add an overlay, and let's finish this thing up. Next up, we're going to click on floating. We're going to add an image. And not done very much in Tableau dashboards. We're going to go ahead and implement this. We're going to choose an image. We want our, let's see, we'll go back to our YouTube logos, and we're going to pick our King of Quant logo. Fit the image and hit OK. Looks good. Looks really good. Okay. We'll make it pretty small here and just nest it in the corner. Just kind of out of the way, but still nice and visible. Looks good. Let's add our action. So we want to go up here to, let's see, which one do we want? Okay, so we're just going to go up here to actions in the dashboard tab. We're going to add an action. We want to filter. We do not want to deal with these first two because it's not even from the same data source. We want to, our source is going to be stock 2, and then we want to target stock 1 over here. When we do something in stock 2, we want it to affect stock 1. And this is going to be on select. That way, when we're hovering over, this graph over here is not just changing left and right and completely distracting everybody. So looks pretty good. We'll hit OK. We want it to do it on all the fields. Hit OK. And when I'm hovering, nothing happens. But when I click, boom, looks good. Nice and simple. Making actions is very simple and can make a big difference, but sometimes they're hard to convey and sometimes they're hard to load. So as we wait for Tableau to finish this up, we can prepare to add our overlay. As you can see, it works great. So adding our overlay, what we want to do is you are going to need to create a floating container, and we're just going to drag it to the edges of the dashboard. Okay. Try and get it as close of a fit as possible. Line up those edges nice and closely. Okay, so now we have this invisible container over our dashboard. Next up, we're going to click on this container. And if you need to make sure you're clicking on that container and not another one, go ahead and check right here. Check your hierarchy in your layout tab. If you click horizontal, if that's the one you chose, and it highlights a huge border around the entire dashboard, you're on the right one. Click the drop down arrow, and we want to add a show hide button, and it puts it way up here. We're going to drag it down here and click the drop down and hit edit button. We want it to edit we want it to show and hide the horizontal container, which is just the default name for a horizontal container. We're going to use a text button. You can use an image button, but then you have to go create one, which we'll probably tackle in another video. So when the image is shown, what do we want the button to say? So when this overlay is on the dashboard, we want it to say hide. We want to be able to hide the overlay. We're going to use Tableau bold, and we'll throw a little border on there, and our background color will be gray, because when it's shown, we want it to kind of blend with the overlay. And when it's hidden, so when the dashboard looks exactly like this, what do we want it to do? We want to say, oh, well, show. You can show the overlay. Same thing, add a border, and then for our background, we'll leave it as black. I believe black is what I used over here. I use green. Okay, so we'll change it to green. Just dark green. Looks good. No tooltip. Apply. Looks good. We'll just resize this over here. About that size. Looks good. Yeah. Cool. So right now, it's saying hide because it is showing technically, even though nothing is showing because there's nothing in the container. So now what we want to do is go create an overlay. And creating an overlay can be either complicated or difficult depending on what program you use and how complex your dashboard is and all these other factors. The easiest way to do this is just to load up Snip and Sketch and come over here and just click new. And what you'll do is you'll just crop out perfectly the size of this dashboard. And then go ahead and sketch some things on it, draw some arrows, write some text, whatever you want to do. And then use that as your overlay. What I did is I already created mine. I used Photoshop. If you guys want to drop a comment down below and ask, how exactly do you make an overlay? Go into it in depth, then I will 100% do that. But for right now, unless somebody is extremely interested, I'm just going to add in a overlay, no questions asked. So what I'll do is I'm going to click image and drag I don't want it to be floating. I want it to be tiled. Drag an image and plop it onto that horizontal container. Oh, and I click text. Let's use an image. Okay, I'm just going to choose an image, and I'm going to go back to my throughout my directory, go into files and pick my overlay. Looks good. I'm going to fit it and hit apply. What's it look like? Oh, yeah, that looks good. Lines up really well with exactly how the other one lines up. Hit OK. Looks really good. Maybe my sizing's off a little bit from my other dashboard. I don't entirely know why, but we'll take, let's say, 10 pixels off or something and just see what that does. Yeah, that fixed this edge a little bit. We'll make it just a little bit shorter. We'll cut it down to 890 and see where. I'll just leave it how it was at 900. Okay, looks pretty good. Of course, this overlay I did not create off of this dashboard because we literally just created it. But if you were to do that, it would fit very snug. These lines would be perfect and everything would be perfect. But for the most part, it looks really good. And if we go ahead and throw this into presentation view, you can click on this show hide button and boom, it works. That's great. Don't forget to like and follow. We're going to post content like this at least every week. If you have any requests or anything, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Keep an eye out for videos. Hit that subscribe button. It really makes a big difference on this channel. And let me know. Really doesn't matter what software we're using. We'll cover a lot of them. Tableau, R, even basics like Excel. We can go into more in-depth coding like Visual Studio, C#, things like that. Whatever you want to do, just drop a comment down below. smash that like button and subscribe to King of Quant on YouTube.